Canik has been knocking it out of the park lately. When the METE line came out, there was a complete update to the frame and slides. More on that is, of course, in our Canik guide over on GBGunsDepot.com. Then the Rival came out, pushing things even further, shifting the weight of the slide, changing the way that the gun handles. More recently, we had the Rival S steel frame. All these, by the way, we've reviewed and are on the channel, of course. Spectacular guns, all big guns, and people have been asking, when the heck is Canik going to do something small like they did back when they did the SC? Well, now we have the MC. Tabletop review and field strip is coming up. We're going to go over what's in the box, take a look at the manual, fit, finish, and features. Going to field strip the thing, check for chamber support, a little bit of trigger talk, all coming up next on GB Guns. After all those larger guns, it's nice to have a smaller case for once. Notice that this does have holes for running locks through. I'm not sure how durable the polymer would be, but at least it's a lockable case. That's a nice touch. So we open it up. We have envelope with our owner's manual and some paperwork and a quick cheat sheet for those who are not familiar with how Caniks come apart and go together. They are a little bit different than what some people are used to. Also, a nice big note about the toolkit. So I can get this thing out of the top. These cute little guns that come in the more modern Caniks are a toolkit. You can see that's a bit driver there, and inside you've got your drivers and screws for mounting optics. Nice that they've now made a, hey, pay attention, because a lot of folks didn't realize that this was in here. Let me get this stuff out of the way, and now we can see what's in the box itself. So the gun comes with a chamber flag already in it, and a holster. These holsters are reversible to inside or outside the waistband. We've got one mag in the gun, a pinky rest floor plate if you want, a loader, and a larger mag. This is a 15 rounder with an extension on the bottom, or sleeve rather. Up top is that cleaning, or that toolkit that I mentioned. We've got a nice punch for driving out the pins because this is a METE gun. So it is a little more user-friendly for really stripping the thing down far if you want to. I've seen in the social groups like on Facebook, lots of folks doing all kinds of wild Cerakoting and things. A lot easier to do when you can knock the thing apart. We've got our brush, cleaning rod, and our 2 additional back straps. That's right, interchangeable back straps on a micro gun is a nice thing. I'm excited about that. Before we hit the range, Miss T and I will find which of the 3, the one on the gun or these other 2, fits us best as a compromise, and you'd be surprised to learn that, yeah, it does make a difference. And yes, there are some guns where we find that one size fits her medium hands and my XXL hands better than the other 2. With this out of the way, we can get a look at the gun, but first let's take a look at the manuals, because sometimes there's some good information in there. Even if you consider yourself familiar with firearms, sometimes there's something in here worth looking at. It also gives us an indication as to how well the company wants you to know and understand their firearm, and it shows YouTube that when I field strip this thing, I'm not modifying the gun, it's actually here in the manual. So the font is nice and big. We've got gloss paper, good quality paper, so nicely done there. There's all the specs. You can pause and read if you want, or check out our article over on GBGunsDepot.com, where we'll have all that stuff. I did not see anything in here about plus P ammunition, other than using overpressured ammunition can void the warranty. So is that considered overpressured or not? In YouTube moderator, here we are, field stripping. You can see the steps, and that's exactly what I'm going to be doing, especially and reinstallation. But manual overall, no major notes other than seems decently done. Before we get into fit, finish, features, and all that, want to compare against the Canik TP9 Elite SC, since I know a lot of you Canik folks are probably wondering what's the difference. Is there really much of a difference? I was wondering the same thing, grabbed our SC and wanted to show you comparison wise, is this really a micro or is this just the SC redone? And you might be thinking it's the SC redone. Let me show you some things before you set your mind to that. If I set these end to end, you can see that the MC is indeed shorter. if I set the barrel hoods together, you can see that the barrel on the MC is shorter and the slide is also a little bit shorter. Looking at the magazine release, on the Elite SC we had a full-size mag release, as in the same that was on the regular guns of the time. On the MC it is a smaller magazine release. They also made it a little bit narrower and quite a bit lighter by chopping off, zoom in so you can see, where the slide flares out classically on the Canics. That hump there, you can see on the MC, is significantly smaller, makes for a narrower, thinner gun. So you've got a shorter, lighter, thinner gun with less protrusion from the controls. Those are the differences. As far as magazines, you might be wondering, is there interchange? And this is something I thought was fascinating. Our Elite SC magazine does not work, but that's because of this floor plate meant for the SC. Keep in mind this is pre-METE design. If I take the mag out of our METE SFX, without the floor plate becoming an issue, it locks in and fits just fine. So although this is a micro compact, you've got magazines that follow the same tube size as the regular Canics, which means you have magazine interchangeability. Now if you ever use a magazine like this, where it's from a bigger gun, does not have a sleeve here, like the factory included 15 rounder has that sleeve helps protect the gun and the magazine. Using it without a sleeve, if you jam that in real hard, you run the risk of slightly over inserting, mashing the magazine, mashing the ejector, all kinds of unhappy things that can happen inside. So yes, you can use these, just be careful not to smash them in too hard unless you've got a sleeve on here that's going to serve as your stop there. You can also tell, looking at the back strap, that it is smaller and a smaller frame. See, it's a little bit shorter, and we've got the texturing from the side on the back as well, instead of just the grid marks there that were used on the earlier Canik SC. So I hope that answers some questions. Yes, this is a different gun. Yes, it is smaller and lighter, 12 round or 15 round, or if you want to get silly, you can throw in the big 20 rounder with the extension on it. But you're not really giving up much capacity to get a gun that is slightly smaller, thinner, lighter, and more modern on the design. Now we can take a look at finish, fit, and features of the little guy. Start off, of course, by showing clear, and you notice right up top we have a loaded chamber indicator. This is the type that pops up to give you something you can both see, but more importantly feel when you can't otherwise see if there's a round in the chamber. We know it's clear. We'll check for magazine ejection or release. Nice kick there. Slide is back and the gun is upside down, so you know it's actually kicking. Nice little positive help to get the magazine out of the gun. And we'll check, see how this other side slide release works. It does just fine and locks open. That's nice. Not every gun company that has an ambi slide release has one that actually really functions. So starting up front, you can see we've got a flat front end with the recoil assembly muzzle of the barrel and the end of the slide all ending roughly at the same spot, and we're devoid of that little bit of step. And there's still a little bit there. See if I can get the light to hit it to make reholstering easy. But this is a carry gun, so getting back to the holster really doesn't matter. No gunfights were won by reholstering faster than the other guy. Underneath we have 3 rail spots, which is nice and very optimistic. There's not a whole lot that can fit in that amount of space there, but it does leave you room for those ones that have a rear biased slot if you're adding a light or laser. The front of our trigger guard has a texture for the European style grip if you want. We still have a little bit of an undercut under the trigger guard, not as dramatic as you'd get on the full size, of course, because there's not as much space on this gun to do that in the first place. Our trigger guard is, of course, radiused nicely underneath to prevent Glock knuckle, and you can see our texture on the front strap is that texture that has become known since the Canik METE line came out. A little bit of concave, doesn't seem as much. Maybe this is flatter than the other models. The other ones have a wee bit of concave to them. Just allows room for flesh. An attempt at beveling, Not really, because there's not really room for it on the gun this slim. We do still have that heel. I love that heel for reloads as it serves as a guide to be able to hit the mag against and come in with. And the texture on the back strap, that's a nice update to the older ones. Heck, even the METE SFX was still using that diamond on the back. Does it make a difference? Well, the front strap and back strap are the two areas where grip is most important, or at least traction is, as the gun attempts to rock. And little guns like this, that are lightweight, tend to rock even more, so I appreciate that. We still have those dimples there that allow the flesh someplace to go. If your hands are small enough, normally it hits about here on my hand, but with a gun this small, it's hitting in an area that doesn't need it. Slide to frame fit, very tight in the rear, and fairly tight up front. Part of that is the lack of leverage because it's such a short barrel, 3.18 inches, so 0.08 inches longer than your 365, if you will. You can see we have a striker indicator. This pops out when the striker is armed, and when the striker is released, it's gone. So you can know if you've got a dead trigger because the striker has been tripped, or if you're trying to pull on a dead round or not. You can see our sight picture. We have a nice big white dot up front and blacked out rear. I love that. That is easy to grab. And our optics cut, you notice, has moved forward and fits so that you will still have the rear sight. Don't know off the top of my head for sure, but I'm willing to bet this is the micro optic cut, so the Shield RMSC and that size. Coming around the right side of the gun, so we've got our controls. Our magazine release is reversible. Nicely done there. Let's do some trigger talk while we're here. Those who know and love Caniks love these triggers. You have a very thin safety blade in the middle that prevents it from firing. Now, as you can tell by the striker indicator in the back, this is a pre-cock striker setup, which makes this first pull fairly light. You're taking up some tension, but it's not a lot of effort required. Come back to the wall, clean break, and do they retain that super short reset? Oh yeah. This is the gun that can be fired quickly if you want to. Also something to keep aware of. If we'll see when we get to the range how flippy this thing is, but sometimes guns that are too small for your hand or hard to hold on to, you may not want to trigger that short or light. It feels to me, let's try that against, let's go latest and greatest with the steel frame. Now, I would say this is a lighter trigger, so Canik did deliberately go with something a little more carry-friendly. Of course, these guns have a lot of rounds through them, whereas this is brand new, so maybe it's a matter of them being broken in. But this trigger, to me, feels more carry-appropriate than most of the other Canik triggers, which is a good thing. I appreciate that and respect that. When this was first announced, one of my concerns was, Canik trigger and a gun that small, that might be a handful, but it seems like they did a good job here. Next, we'll field strip the MC and take a look inside. Field stripping the Caniks is similar, although different from a lot of other striker-fired guns out there, in that the slide doesn't come all the way off the front. I'll show you what I mean. We've checked for clear. We're going to release the striker, pull down on the takedown tabs at that black square on both sides, bring the slide back a little bit forward, it releases, and then just comes off. You'll find a spot where it stops and it comes off the top. Gives us a chance to look inside. And if the camera will focus, you'll see we've got the basic Canik design, which follows very similar to the Walther P99 PPQ. Nice metal insert there. Trigger mechanism looks like it's all on its own little chassis. That actually seems different to me than the others. 2 pins retaining all this, and you see that those pins are divoted. That's for use with the tool that came in the box, so that you can knock this thing out and strip the frame completely if you want to. As far as our slide, we're going to add some pressure on the recoil spring so that it unlocks and comes out. And we've got a steel dual spring setup. I appreciate these dual spring setups. What that tends to do is make the gun a little bit easier to rack because you can get some momentum as you're pulling rearward before the strength of the other spring starts to really play a role. Also tends to make for smoother shooting guns. If that's true or not with this guy, we'll find out when we get to the range. With the Browning action, just tap the barrel to unlock it, bring it forward a little bit, and out. See our barrel, chamfered edge on there, and a nice polished broad feed ramp that should be hollow point friendly. And we can take a look inside of our slide. Very nicely machined, very well done. Canik has been just really knocking it out of the park lately. With our tiny little barrel, we'll check for chamber support next. Chamber support is checked with using some nozzler match. I've been using the same box for years to do this because, well, it's really nicely made brass and precision loaded. So I can trust that if this fits or not, it's an indicator as to how the chamber is fit. As far as chamber fitment, it looks all nicely polished there. I can't get any light in to show you. But what we're looking for is dropping this in, listening for the plunk. See if it can turn freely, and it can. And then we want to see how much of the brass forward of that end shoulder, get the camera to focus for you, is exposed, and it looks like none. This appears to be a fully supported chamber. That's something I like to see, although the manual does state that using reloads or overpressured rounds will void your warranty and put you at risk. The reason why a fully supported chamber is important is because the barrel sits in like this, and should you have an overpressure for some reason and the case wants to rupture, that would be where it's not supported. It blows the case out and sends all of that force, about, was it 35 or 55,000 psi, I can't quite remember. I'm sure one of you will comment in the section, for 9mm, out into the gun. It usually blows the magazine at the bottom. It can bulge or crack or destroy your frame, which is the firearm, and scare the bejeebus out of you. Might even hurt you. So it's nice to have a fully supported chamber like this Canik does. As I reassemble this, we'll talk about what will be in the range video, which will be coming up shortly. You will get our cold shots, first impressions, absolute first shots out of the gun from two shooters, Miss Tia and I. And then we'll check full mag +1. Here you guys saw how that went back together. You set it down. Come on. That's not releasing. There we go. Set it back down where it came off. There's a little release, a little relief in the bottom of the slide here. Line that up over your front rails and just pull it back on the slide, and everything will lock up. Quick functions check. After we do the full magazine +1 and see how the gun runs fully stuffed, you'll get our trademark What's for Dinner test, where we'll run 10 additional loads through the gun of different case materials, projectile shapes, overall lengths, different weights, etc. to see how the gun runs on that. We'll try sights and trigger control on our spinner target, then give you some practical accuracy shots from two shooters before giving you the concluding thoughts from two different shooters, which should be pretty interesting. I think in the 12-round mag, it's going to be a little bit short for me, but I did notice this 15-rounder lets me get a whole grip on there, so that's probably going to be my favorite, at least for reviewing the gun. If you get any questions about this or any of the other Canik models, you can check out our guide over at gbgunsdepot.com or leave comments here and hope that I get back to you. Thanks for watching.